And welcome to another episode of DIOTALK. I'm Dio. Let's talk. My guest of the evening is a serious entrepreneur. He has an amazing story. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to Justin Lund. Welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Dio.
Man, it's an honor having you. Your assistant reached out, man, and he said, I think my boss would be great for your show. And I was like, okay, send me his information. And he sends me information, and I go down this rabbit hole, hearing your story, overcoming so many obstacles, seeing how you scaled your business from zero to nine figures. Uh, Man, truly inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
I don't even know what to ask you first, right? So I'll ask you, what inspired you to do what you do?
I think probably where I started, I think got way back when I was a small child. Um, Tony Robbins was coming onto the scene when I was a kid, and he had infomercials on TV. And I remember seeing him, and I thought that was kind of cool. They were on late at night. I didn't see him that much. I was like 8. I mean, I was a little kid, and my brother bought the personal power set. And that was like $300 in 1980 something. So it was like
Wow.
$12,000 today, right? So,
Wow.
and he would let me use it. He's like, "Yeah, listen to whatever you want." And I just thought that was the coolest thing that he would let me touch them. That was so expensive, and I really liked. I just got into his. He's so passionate, enthusiastic, and larger than life. And he would tell these stories about flying into these events in his helicopter that he was piloting. And I thought, man, that's just cool. As an 8 year
Wow.
old, I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
that is pretty cool to go to your own event, fly in your own helicopter. I think I don't want a boss. I want to be my own boss and be like that guy. So that probably lit a spark, planted a seed in me. And then that became more like that spark was fanned after another episode in life that was really challenging is when I suffered through some addiction issues and had to fight through that to keep my family together, to keep my health, to stay alive. It was a pretty
Yeah.
brutal battle. Um, but it was awesome. Before that, I got into sales, and that was a good place for me. In one respect, very unhealthy place in terms of drugs, but
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
respect of developing my character and some of my philosophy, I was able to talk to people about psychology without. I took psychology classes in college and things, but I just didn't want to be a therapist or a none of those paths were it for me. When I got into sales, I thought, hey, this is perfect. I can use this knowledge of psychology to connect with people. And basically, I would try to sound like Tony Robbins on a sales pitch. That's what I
Yeah.
would try to do. But there was the downside of sales, which there was a lot of drugs on the sales floors. So I got into that, had problems there. Um, Went into a rehab facility, which was like, it's all psychology and it's all about me psychology.
Yeah.
It's even better. I love
Dissecting
that.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool. I was able to really learn a lot about what made me tick and why I made stupid choices and and then they taught me frameworks, it's where I first came up with these frameworks and methods and systems for, not just like winging it, like, hey, if this happens, if this trigger comes up, here's a series of things you can do to go down a different path instead of this default path or just a chaotic path without any real outlines. And so that was awesome. So coming out of there, that was really the fire, knowing that being healthy after being unhealthy with drugs
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
few years, like I just felt like I was in charge of life. I felt clean and clear and focused. And I also had something to prove. I lied to everybody in my family. I was just a down and out. I was not the greatest human being for a few years, and I wanted to prove that wasn't me and I'm capable of more. So I just went all in on a business. And the first year, maybe got up to just barely 6 figures. And then the second year was into mid sevens and just went 8 and just under 9 within a few years, 9 figures. And it was phenomenal. Had a great, just I had this fire to just keep pushing because of some of those previous chapters and challenges in my life. So I guess that's how I'd answer your question. But I wasn't done facing challenges, as you know. Some of the story continues from there.
Well, that's a lot in itself, right? That's a lot to dissect, right? Because salespersons, you're lucky if you don't uh walk into those obstacles, right? Because you got to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Got to hustle. You got to hustle. So you're here in therapy. You get out. What's next? Where do you start?
Well, I started at that point, we had just lost everything while I was in rehab. And it was a forced rehab because I had some law enforcement problems. So it was go there and try, hopefully, to avoid serious jail time. Um, so I came out of that, and it was me and my wife and two children at the time sleeping on my mother's floor in the living room. Like
Wow.
that was where we what we had. We didn't have we didn't have anything. I started working out of her garage, um, and just working on a business idea, and I had started making some new connections with different friends and different people. I knew that got out of the city that I was in prior to that, and I knew the connections I had in the sales floor were just it was not good for me. Wanted to avoid as much of those triggers as possible till I
You had to
got
start
stable.
new, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So with that new, I had a few people that wanted to see me succeed, and so they would let me ride some of their coattails as far as just going to meetings with them and making introductions. And I just tried to leverage every single ounce of it that I could to learn a new trade and to prove, everything before deal was like I'd try these different ideas. I'd try to get out of the sales floor. I tried this joint venture with somebody else, and there was always a reason why it would fail. I always had a scapegoat. It was like, well, if he wouldn't have pulled out, that would have worked.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have canceled that, and it was never really on me. And I learned that in rehab that was kind of a tool that I was using to justify dumbass behavior, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I had to go all in with something just on my own. And that was kind of a proving ground to myself, for myself, to see if I could really do it. And there was a cool moment in rehab where my favorite therapist there, his name is Dr. Bob, and this guy he had like two PhDs. He was awesome. Turned my life around single handedly. I told him one day, only about a week or so, maybe 2 weeks in, I was there for 6 weeks. And I said, I'll do anything once I'm out of here. Now that I'm clean and healthy, I'll do anything just to keep my family together. I'll go work at McDonald's flipping hamburgers. And he looks at me over his glasses and he's like, well, you're a dumb son of a bitch then if you think that. And just started kind of laying into me. And I was like, what? And that's why he was kind of shocking to me because he looked like Santa Claus.
Mhm.
But he would curse at me and drop the F bomb right in my face and call me a
Yeah.
stupid
Yeah.
mother,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It just shocked you like, wait, Santa's not supposed to talk like this. What's going on? And, one of the things that he helped me to realize is that it was those dead end sort of behaviors. It was me taking something that, if I had this burning that I told you that this seed that was
Yeah.
planted as a
Yeah.
child that I might be able to do something more, but I was settling and going a different route. And he showed me and taught me through by just pointing back to my experience saying, every time you compromise your integrity with yourself, you're going to need to
Mm.
find a way to numb, to release, to get away from it. So if your dumbass goes to flip hamburgers just to make your wife happy or whatever, I'll see you back here in 2 weeks, you dumb, you just kind of tear into
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. You're wow. That you just make me realize so much with that in itself, right? Because you're holding yourself back. You're making decisions based off necessity. Everyone wants a home that's balanced. You want to be a provider for your family. You want stability, which is the most important thing. You don't want to go through hardships. Balanced.
Right.
So I get what he's saying, and kudos for you for taking, swinging and taking
And
another chance for
that's the
yourself.
challenge, when you look at this, and it's kind of some of the society norms, and it's kind of ingrained into us that we want to be stable and we want to provide, especially after coming off of like 3 years of being just a shitbag. I
Yeah.
wasn't I did whatever I had to cover my tracks. And so I thought that was a noble thing to say, I'll dig ditches, I'll
Yeah,
do whatever. And it's really it's those choices that got me into that mess. And I'm so thankful for him and all the other awesome counselors that were there. They helped me learn more about myself and realize that I have to do things that challenge me, that push me, that prove that I can prove to myself that I'm expanding and growing and becoming.
yeah,
And that was the beginning. I mean, that really, that took me up into a whole new level. And when he said that, and I began that day with a new understanding, like I have to do something. And I started putting these pieces together. Like I said, there's always somebody I blamed. There was always somebody that didn't, that it wasn't always up to just me. So I went out after that. And the tough part is living on my mom's floor, spending the next year with no income and trying to build something from zero with a wife who literally probably wanted to kill me.
yeah,
She was working the minimum wage dead end job just for a little bit of grocery money. And we couldn't even pay my mom any rent at all. And so building that up, and then I just had a series of miracles that really took place in my life we reached a point there. I mean, this is bananas, but there was a point I remember just seeing, I think it was 9, 10 months into living on the floor. Again, I got two small kids. One's a
mhm,
baby and one's 3. And, I could just tell that something had just shifted with my wife. And if we didn't have our own place, it was never good. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
one day I just realized this is really bad. This is getting worse. And if I'm going to keep my family together, I have to have a place to stay. So I went out driving around in my mom's car with her because I didn't have a driver's license. That was revoked from my charges,
wow,
so I couldn't even
yeah,
drive.
yeah,
So she's driving me around and I'm looking at apartments and it's like $1,500, $1,200, 2,000. I'm like, there's no way. I got nothing. Like, I don't know what to do. And then one of these guys that I knew said he was going up to about 300 miles north of Salt Lake City. It's a big city where I was. It's kind of a small town. And I said, well, can I jump in with you? And it was just off the dome. I don't know why, where. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to find something new. And everything around here is just what it's always been. And I don't feel like I can make anything work. So I got in the car with him the next morning at like 6 a.m. We drove up. I just could talk with him as we go. And he had a couple of meetings to go to. I tagged along. One of them was with the guy that I told him, I got to get out of this place. My wife's going to, like, I don't know what she's going to do. And he says, I know this guy named Jason. He just bought some houses. He's trying to be a real estate speculator. I think he's sitting on like 3 or 4 houses right now. They're empty. Like, go talk to him. So I went and talked to him. My buddy that I was with drove me over there, sat down with him. And I said, I really need a place to stay. And my buddy kind of helped position me as an expert in something that he needed. And so he's like, well, could you help me with some of the marketing on this project I've got? And I said, sure. Maybe in exchange for some accommodations. I
mhm,
ended up moving into a 5,000 square foot house for free, bro, totally for free, which saved my marriage. I lived there for the next year and a half while the business really started to take off. And without all those, the grace of God, I I wouldn't have a family. I wouldn't have 2 more kids that followed shortly thereafter. I wouldn't have, like things
yeah,
started
yeah.
to really get put back together. And it was, I just, so many awesome moments like that are just really cool to reflect on and realize, man, I was on the precipice so many times of just being done.
Yeah. So what was the idea that changed everything? What was the business? What was because it's the development, right? Like every business starts like that. I'm
Mhm.
in my fifth year. No, I'm going into my fifth year, and where you see glimpse of what can happen. It's
Mhm.
getting there. You just got to keep going, but you're not. Some businesses you're not going to make money. What was the idea, and what was the moment that you saw like, okay, this is working. Let's do this.
So, first question is, what was the business idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this was 2005. 5-ish. And, this is what Facebook is just barely getting started, I think.
Mm, yeah.
Um, Google AdWords is just a baby still. This is early Wild West internet days. And there were these people selling things, advertisers, they wanted to sell this widget. And there's a form of marketing that still exists. It's affiliate marketing, and it was kind of getting started where the idea was be an affiliate network. And so I thought, okay,
Mm,
I knew people that were in these spaces. I knew people that sold products. And I also knew a couple people that were they called the publishers. And these are guys and gals that had traffic. So maybe they had a blog, maybe they had a list of email subscribers, maybe they had,
they have
or
an
some of them,
audience.
yeah, they either had an audience or they knew how to buy advertisements like display ads, or they had this little one niche or another, but they had a specialty. And that specialty equals traffic to a certain source. So the advertisers would say, here's this widget that I want to sell. I want you to sell it for $20. And every time you sell one of them, I'll give you $15, because they know that they can acquire that customer. It's a loss leader to get them, and they'll sell them more stuff in the coming months, right? So I would say, okay, I'll try to find people that can promote that for you. I'll manage it, manage those people, and then I'll pay them 14 and I'll keep a buck, right? And see if I can sell 100 of them, 200, 500 a day. So that was the idea. That's what it started as. Um, it started out, I remember the first payment that I made. There was a guy, he's still my friend today. I talked to him just last week. This guy from Florida. He's from the Bronx. He was one of my first guys to work with to get traffic. And he sent like $1,500 worth of traffic, which is nothing, advertising dollars. I opened my bank account and I sent him the first check, FedEx overnight, so he could get it quick. And the bank closed my account that same day that the FedEx went out because there was a clerical problem. And I said, it's no big deal. You just got to sign different papers and you'll get a different account number, no problem. So I called him, and this is a brand new relationship. And I'm learning. I mean, I knew nothing about the business deal. I'm learning the
You're
acronyms.
green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know nothing. And I remember calling him that day and saying, "Hey, um, I got this." His name was Sal, and he was a stereotypical New Yorker. He's awesome. And I'm like, "Hey, that check, it's gonna be there in the morning, but don't cash it." And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he just jumps
Yeah,
right
yeah,
into
yeah.
me and said, "You pulling shit with me? I told you." And that we squared off and went toe to toe, and I kind of matched his tone and came right back at him. And then he got the check the following day, got a new check. It cleared. And we were just like, that was kind of the first moment when that fight turned into a solid relationship because
Mm.
I followed through with my word. There was just an issue. I didn't back down. And then he called me a couple days later. He's like, you got fucking balls, kid. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was cool. So we had this friendship. He helped me with some other traffic sources, and it kind of started giving me a little momentum, became a little bit of a mentor for me. And then, funny enough, started working for me 5 or 6 years later. It was awesome. And we're
So
still in
you
touch
were
today.
you were pretty considered today data, which now data is it's everything, right? They collect and they sell it. So you at that pre position
Yeah.
and were like you're original. You're the one who started this, you're the platform that collects it and
Yeah.
distributes it.
Yeah,
That's
and that's what
amazing.
when we started that, it was just the what I really was is a broker between these parties because the guys that are selling these, they know how to make them, they know how to do customer
Hmm.
service, they do it. And the guys over here that are doing the traffic, they're buying the ads or sending the emails, they knew all about that. But neither one of these guys cared about the other one's business. And I realized
Hmm.
that really quickly. And so what I really did is I just managed the relationships. So I learned just enough about these guys' business that I kind of understood their pain points. I understood what was a struggle for them on a day-to-day basis. And then I understood these guys and what they dealt with. They're spending tons of money and they don't have any guarantees that they're going to get it. So yeah, they're guys like Sal, very, very much, if you don't pay them on time, they're very pissed because they've already spent their money on advertising dollars. So they're
Yeah,
gonna,
and it's
they're
in a
gonna,
different time too, because
yeah,
now everything is, which it sucks for. I think it sucks because everything's online, you know,
yeah.
and they're not appreciating the term. I don't know over there, but we use like you got to go back on knocking doors.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
you build more long lasting relationships like that than now, everything is you got to promote online, online, online,
yeah,
online.
yeah. Tell me about a deal. So I kind of went into a bit of retirement for a while and kind of drifted for a bit. After some of those things, I spent about 12 years just raising my kids, moved to the woods of New England, and had some challenges that I needed to work through from the previous business partnership. And now in the last couple of years, I've just kind of been getting back out. Now my kids are older and kind of moving on. And it's a whole different, I mean, 12, 13 years is a lot of time to be, now there's Instagram. Everything's on Instagram. And so I just get back into it and start going to trade shows and making connections. And people are like, "Oh yeah, what's your IG handle?" I'm like, "I
I don't
don't
know.
have one. I don't have one. What even is
Yeah,
that at
yeah.
first?" And then I figured out what it was. And I logged into Instagram for the first time last year, 2024.
Wow.
And yeah, first time I ever logged. I mean, I knew what it was, of course, but I never had logged in, never downloaded the app. And everybody's telling me you gotta like shoot videos all the time, every day. I'm like, are you
Yeah.
shitting me? No way. I don't want my face out there. So it was a big learning curve to go through. There's some things that suck about it. There's things that are better. There's people can pick up on authenticity, I think, a little bit better because there's so
Hmm.
much content out there and there's so many just kind of phony posers that are renting the Lambo for a day to
Well,
shoot content.
that's a whole different episode. We could sit there and
Yeah.
record 3 or 4 episodes just on that. But yeah, I get it. It's
Yep.
it's but you weren't missing anything, right? I think you're a smart guy based on where you're selling your story. I think you could figure it out and truly make a real long lasting impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. And that's, what I'm doing now is, well, some of the stuff that I was working on, I had a business partner take tens of millions of dollars from me, and
Wow.
I trusted this person. I mean, this person came into my home 5 or 6 days of the week. I mean, we were very very close, and I just gave him complete deference. Total trust, 125%. And he just took me to the cleaners with it. And so I had to fight through some of that because there was some tax implications that were pretty nasty. The IRS thought, you owe us about $5 million
Mm.
and you didn't pay. So all the businesses were in my name. All the money went to him. So the IRS doesn't really care in that case. It's like your name, it's your ass, just figure it out. So I had to go through a lot of process of litigation and trying to recreate the previous 5, 6, 7 years to show that I didn't have any of the money. The money was all taken and, all of that stuff. What was cool about that is the reason I got into that problem, Dio, is because I was always like, I'm not good with the numbers. The taxes kind of scare me,
Yeah.
and that's what created my vulnerability. And then, this person slipped right in and exploited that vulnerability. But life has a funny way of kind of teaching you, putting you through the school of hard knocks. You either learn and address it and face it, or you learn through getting your ass handed to you. And I did. So the next 5 years, it was 4.5 years actually that I was litigating in that case. I had attorneys, accountants, forensic accountants on payroll. I mean, I had to get good at the numbers that I previously did not like.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the fortuitous parts of that is I had a friend of mine, good friend of mine, called me about midway through that, and she said, "Hey, I'm starting a new business, and don't you have people that can like help me do payroll or something?" I said, "I mean, we don't really do that. We're working on all this shit over here, but I guess sure, I'll hook you up. That's fine. They know all that stuff." So we started doing payroll for her, and then she's like, "Could you do my books too? Just to like, I want to keep things going so I get good tax deductions." I'm like, "Yeah, that's no
Hmm.
big deal. You're just a small thing. No problem." Well, she told 5 or 6 of her friends. They started calling. They told five or six. Within a year, we had 50 clients that we were doing books and payroll, and I was like, "What? How do we even get here? I wasn't even trying to do this." Um, and we had the accountants and the bookkeepers to do the admin work, so it was good. But basically, deal we're taking the like just the crappy part of business, the stuff like you got your business, you're doing the idea, but then there's all this stuff that you have to do, the government makes you do to deal with. So we were doing all
In
that
a
stuff.
sense, yeah, in a sense, that's the most important part.
Yeah,
That's the
that
most important part.
it
That's the
can
crazy
be for
part,
sure. Yeah,
you know?
it's got to be taken care of. Um, so we were doing that, but my role because yeah, I had to learn about numbers and taxes and all these things, but I mean, you'll never find me jumping around spreadsheets just for fun. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not my thing. But uh, what became of that is I would be talking to these people that came in and just kind of consulting and giving them ideas on what they could do to get some tax deductions or how they could strategize with their CPA to lower their tax bill or how they could break through kind of a growth ceiling or something they've been kind of running into or a constraint that they've been dealing with. So the bookkeepers did the bookkeeping, but then I did more consulting and realized that that's because of kind of this history of all these years of going through the ringer, whether it be psychological and therapy and drugs and building a business and creating the systems to manage 98 employees and deal with almost nine figures of revenue to fighting through all the litigation with all of that and dealing with all the tax complications and implications there were there. Um, it gave me a pretty cool set of experiences to help people like avoid all of that
Mhm.
mess. So I started doing more of that, and then just last year I separated the bookkeeping and admin stuff from me. So now some of the guys that worked for me for the last 10 years, they're doing the books, and I refer people their way, and I just do coaching and consulting, and that's where I'm the happiest because I can identify different mindset and systems and delegation tactics with people that just help them bust through. It's like I said,
It's
there's
the physical aspect of the business. There's a physical and there's a thinking,
mhm.
thinking, some people are good at it because they can sit there and, other people are, you have to be moving. You have to be, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go,
Yeah,
And
yep.
those are the two things that most business don't understand. You can't do everything on your own. It's unfortunate that you had a partner that sucked balls. But the truth is you can't do everything on your own.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And what's kind of what I've loved being able to do is it's interesting. These problems tend to present themselves with they're related to revenue. It seems I'm seeing people hit certain thresholds of revenue, and then they start experiencing these similar pain points. So I'll use examples of whether it's a software developer who is really good at coding. They can write kick-ass code. They're very sharp. They know how high tech stuff works or AI works or whatever. Or maybe it's somebody that makes cookies, man. Like
Hmm.
they make cookies and that put smiles on people's faces because the cookies are really good. Like picture that person. Do you see him behind a computer? No, you see him in a kitchen, right? You see him with the little chef hat, with an apron, with flour going all over the place. Like that is what that person, that's their happy spot. That's where they thrive. And at some point, if that cookie maker grows
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they are selling cookies and then more people
Hmm.
want the cookies because they
Hmm.
kick ass at
Hmm.
making cookies, all of a sudden there's a point when the revenue hits a certain level where the problems that person needs to deal with become less and less about cookies and more about how to manage humans, how to file tax paperwork, how to protect yourself against liabilities, how to get health and safety inspections. You know what I'm saying? Like all this
Hmm.
stuff. And what tends to happen is people will go this way for a minute and they'll think about, okay, I'm gonna go out and get more cookie sales because I've hired three
Hmm.
people and now my expenses are higher. So I'm gonna go talk to all these grocery stores and sell cookies. And they're really good at that because they know the cookies, they know the recipes. So they go out and they sell, 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 sell. But then the three people that are back baking cookies make shitty cookies because they didn't know how to scale the cool cookie recipes. Right.
Hmm.
So now they come back and they realize their kitchen is in disarray. So they stop selling and they start focusing on the recipe and training these guys how to make the cookies as good as they can make the cookies. Then guess what suffers? The delivery. So they're going this way, then they're going this way, then they're going this way. They get to the end of the year and they're like, holy shit, I'm right where I started, except now I have less money, more employees, and more headache. And I call that that is a capacity ceiling. So they bump their head against the ceiling because they started the business to bake cookies, and now nobody told them, excuse me, right now you need to pause. You need to add 2 hours to your schedule this week to learn how to manage human beings. You need to learn how to, and there's transitions like that, and that's the kind of coaching that I do with people, is just showing them how to create. Well, there's three parts to it, and I call it the freedom flywheel, right? And that's the mindset, the systems, and then the delegation. And that kind of creates this loop that once you go all the way through it, you can delegate and get some of the stuff off your plate. But a lot of people jump to delegation. So they think, holy shit, I'm so busy, I better hire some people. So they hire people. They haven't thought it through. They've created no system frameworks for how to pass things off successfully. Then they bring in these people, and the people are like, okay, what do you want me to do? And that's usually where these problems start to build. So what does the founder do? Runs around solving problems and putting out fires. And that creates this vicious cycle of, hey, at least I'm solving the problems of the day. And, but after some time, they're like, oh, is this ever going to stop? All I do is put out fires, and that's that capacity ceiling, where they've reached a point where they need to either break through or decide they're not going to scale. Or so many times it's unfortunate. I talk to founders that are like, I'm done. I'm out. Can you help me get this business to a point where I can sell it because I fucking hate it?
Mm-hmm.
And 30-40% of the time, once we go through the process of creating systems in their business and create these frameworks and mechanisms that allow them to delegate more effectively, they'll say, this actually isn't such a bad business after all. Because now the business doesn't rely on them being there 24/7 solving every problem. But you got to start with the mindset, then you get into the systems for it, and then you effectively delegate. So you inspect what you expect, and then you go up to the next level. And there's new devils on the new levels. You know what I'm saying? Like, now there's more stuff.
Yeah, I had this gentleman from Ireland, Paul Davis. He said you explained it more, you went more in depth, but he's basically explained the same thing you're explaining when it comes to businesses. And I don't think no one is ever prepared for the growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
People think they're gonna reach this level and it's money, and it's gonna be okay, but it's not. There's so much as you grow. There's so much levels. Before I entered journalism, right, and it's just me, right? It's easy. Um, Doing the job financially is different, but I manage property, people, 150 people under me, and each one is different, and
Yeah.
you hire what you get. You get what you hire.
Yeah.
If the contract says you could pay somebody 25 and you hire somebody for 15, you're gonna get what you get.
Yep.
So it's also about investing. Like you said, it's delegating. But like, if you're delegating and you're just giving off jobs or things to do to people that are not capable to give you the quality the business need or your standard, you're gonna go down.
Yeah, for
Peak.
sure. Absolutely. What I see more often than just people that are not capable is leaders that aren't capable leaders. And
Mm.
because they're the boss, they never necessarily learned how to lead. Because one of those first problems that you run into that isn't cookie problems is usually human problems, like how to deal with humans more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know that there's something that, how are you going to pass off some of this work? And how are, I tend to try to be an optimist, and I try to think that people generally want to do well, but they don't read your mind, and there's a lot of leaders are out there are just seagull leaders, they're not present. They're out there trying to do stuff like this. And then they swoop down in and they shit on everybody's head, and then they fly right out of
Mm-hmm.
there, just like a
Mm-hmm.
seagull. And so the people there are feeling like, man, I don't know. I don't know if I want to work here. That boss is a jerk. This sucks. When maybe there's good people, maybe there's bad people, that's a different conversation. But I can tell you for sure that when the leader works on themselves and they understand these mindset systems and delegation sort of
Mm-hmm.
flywheel, they will attract a better quality person. They will bring, when their standards are here, anybody below that is going to quickly feel uncomfortable, right? They're not going to
Hmm.
be, they don't want to be there. They're not, it's not a good match. So that's what I focus on is with the founders in how to kind of break through, look at some of the things that are, it's different though, because it depends on how long somebody's been in this path. I have a few clients right now that they're 25 years into business and they've been seagull managing for 20 of them. It's
Yeah.
hard for somebody like that to let go because they're so used to being the man or the woman, and it's the sex doesn't matter. Like it's when the buck stops with them and everybody goes to them for answers, that is hard to stop doing. Even though they hate it and they say they hate it, there's also a dopamine cycle that kicks in every time 40 people come up to you and say, boss, what
Yeah.
do I do here? What do I do? What do I do? You feel validated. You feel like
It's the
I'm
ego
important.
too.
Yeah, big time, big time. So letting go of that and recognizing, hey, what would actually be better? So I work off of a pyramid that I show people that's I call the delegation pyramid. And the bottom rung is the administrative, the basic stuff. It's a framework to show people not to jump to different. Well, I'll say it this way. A lot of people make a mistake in hiring out of order. So somebody comes in, they're working hard, maybe a solopreneur, owner operator, right? They're working,
Yeah.
working, working. Revenue climbs, business climbs. They go from 8 hours a day to 10 hours to 12 hours to 15 hours. And now they're like, holy crap, I'm smoked. I got to get help. Instead of hiring somebody to help them with basic administrative stuff, they jump to a salesperson or they jump to a leadership role. They have no business hiring a leader. They don't know how to manage a leader. And they have zero systems for a leader to be successful. So the only thing that changes is their balance sheet, right? Because now they've paid more money to a leader, high ticket salary, that comes in like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, there's no systems here. There's nothing, and then that's
Yeah.
just a hiring out of sequence problem. What they need to do is start down low. They need to start with an executive assistant, and there's many people. I have entrepreneurs doing 10 million bucks a year that still don't have an executive assistant. That's right where we start because that's the fastest way to get time back into a founder's calendar. And that's where you get wins. So if there's anybody out there that needs support like that, there's a lot of people don't start there because they just don't know. They say things like, I don't know. It's just going to take me longer to teach somebody to do it than it does for me to do it myself. And that is such garbage. Like I have playbooks that I can just send people and you've got a 7-page manual or a 20-page manual or a 2-page document on how to govern a certain process or a certain employee or a certain role. And with that framework in place, I've had clients just take that framework, never even read it, hand it to an executive assistant and hire somebody and have 7, 12 hours added back into their life on a weekly basis. Like if you had 12 extra hours, that's a big deal. What could
Yeah.
you do with that? So that's
What,
my focus.
what, and if you can, for those who don't know, because it's business speaking, right? A lot of people don't know business speaking. What is an executive assistant?
So well, an executive assistant, you can do two things. One, you can get a virtual assistant if there's somebody that just, and you can get them in different countries and try to save money. Like you said earlier, you get what you pay for. So there's some differences there. For a personal assistant, that's somebody that's there with you in person. And that is, I think, one of the most important hires because as the founder, as somebody who's an owner operator, they're getting lots of emails, they're getting lots of phone calls, they're getting lots of appointments scheduled. They're usually doing sales, they're usually doing a bit of marketing too. Like they're wearing all these hats, right? So the first step is usually just getting rid of like any basic things like invoicing, emailing, calendar. This shocks people, but people will ask me like, "Hey, do you have time to get together like on Friday?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't book my calendar. I don't know enough about my calendar to tell you if I could, but I have a virtual assistant and a personal assistant, and they can tell you exactly when the best time is, because that's it works. See, when I book my own calendar, I have psychological baggage that goes with it. So, there's there's somebody that wants to meet across town, and I've been putting the meeting off because I'm like, God, I don't want to talk to him. It's going to suck. Or I need to go see a doctor and get my blood drawn. And I don't like needles. So I put that off too. And to them, it's just logistics, right? It's like, oh, and this happened just last week. So I'm thinking of this that I had my assistant booked an entire day. There was somebody that wanted to go to lunch with me. I told her I want to go to lunch with him, but I just don't want it to be inconvenient. So it's like a
Yeah.
two. It's not a priority one. It's a two. It's not like a four, like kind of put it off as long as you can. Just make it not inconvenient. So one day I came in, I looked at the calendar with her as I do my daily sync meeting with her. And she said, oh, okay, you've got a couple calls this morning. And then at lunchtime, you're going to leave. You're going to meet that guy there. Right next towards the clinic you need to go to draw your blood because they've been waiting on your blood work for like a month. And then right next to that is the store you need to pick this up at. And then over here is the next meet. And I just went boom, boom, boom. I did this little round robin on the map. And then I was back at my office right before the end of the day. And I would have never done that because three of those things I didn't really want to do. So instead of, I would have done the one I wanted to do, drove all the way back. So I got 30 minutes in the car for no reason, right? And she lined it out to where the next 3 hours were just super productive. I got home and I was like, damn, that was a good afternoon, you know? It was cool.
You're the guy who just, you just want to show up.
Yeah.
You don't want, let me show up and keep moving. That's true success, right?
Yeah.
Because you got things you want to do, things you don't want to do, but you understand that you have to do because there's always going to be things that you don't want to do, but in order to be successful, you have to do them, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So you're the guy who just shows up.
Yep. That's right. And so that's one of the rules. So, okay. So that's a good example. I'm glad you kind of drilled in on that because some people might be freaked out hearing this. I mean, like, whoa, you don't even know? I literally didn't know that I was going to lunch with that guy until like an hour before I went to lunch with that guy that day. Nor did I know that I had an appointment to the doctor's office, nor did, none of those things I knew in advance, which is cool because it allowed me to stay empty and free and keep my mind focused. So many times people major in minor problems. They waste their time with $10 problems and they never make space for $10,000 thinking. And they wonder why the hell they're broke. And that's why, so I show up, but here's the how to. Okay. Here's the super duper give it away. And you guys, if anybody out there wants like this kind of playbook stuff, just message me DOEA and I'll send it to you. Find me on Instagram. That's usually the easiest place. I like the messaging there the best. And I just want, all I ask is you follow me, right? No email address, no whatever.
Yeah.
Follow
Simple.
me. Yeah. I'll send it to you. It's my playbook that I use with my assistant that I just described this. And so what is in that playbook is when you book these appointments, everything's got to be in the calendar and it's all laid out in the playbook. So that way I know that when I pull up and my phone tells me to go to this address and then I drive and it gives me the directions, I don't have to think about shit, right? It even tells me how to get there. And then I pull in the parking lot and I'm like, who am I meeting? And I click the calendar thing that they have put in my calendar and it gives me all the context. It gives me the attachments. It gives me the Google Docs that I'm supposed to be aware of. I sit there for 3 minutes. I flip through everything. I'm like, I'm going to go check it out. Now I can go in and I can be totally present. My phone alerts are off. I don't need to hear anything. I don't need to call anybody. I don't need to bust anybody's balls. I just show up. I do my thing and then I can get out of there. And it takes a minute to get to that. But when you have the mindset, we start with mindset and then the system, you can begin delegating all of that ancillary stuff that doesn't really support your mission. So you can spend time on $10,000 thinking while somebody else is doing, because honestly, it's not rocket science to use fucking Google Calendar. You know what I mean? It's not that big a deal. So you can teach somebody in the Philippines to book your calendar the way you want it. If you have it documented, if you have a process, if you have a playbook that you can give them with the instructions to follow.
Cool. There you have it.
Yeah, man.
As easy as that. It's people are hard because it's not enough discipline. You have to be willing and wanting, and in spite of how difficult you don't want to do, you have to follow through.
For sure. I think that's one of the big reasons, Deal, that a lot of people don't take that action because training somebody to do that requires discipline. Creating a playbook is hard. And that's why I just give everybody what I got. Like if I got it, you can have it. Seriously, I don't hold anything back. And the reason I do that is because I have this mantra of quick wins. I say it here all the time. All my employees probably hate it because I'm like, what's the quick win? What's your quick win today? How did you help them get a quick win? Because if I can work with somebody, if I'm coaching somebody and people come into my coaching calls and I can help them get a quick win where they gain an hour back this week, 2 hours, 5 hours, they're going to go, holy shit. I've been struggling with this for years, and that guy helped me turn it around in a minute because I didn't try to make it complicated. I just said, here, have my playbook. Have at it. That gets a quick win. And what that quick win gives is a lean in to where it opens their mind to what could be possible. And as soon as I get somebody with an open mind, now I can really show them how to get 20 hours back a week. Because, I mean, here's another example. I've been trying to get in shape, and I wanted to get in really good shape because I thought, all right, I've been kind of a lazy bastard for a while. I'm going to go. And my kids, I got boys that are just freaking, they're machines, man. They're built awesome. And they're like, Dad, when are you gonna start tracking your calories? That's how you get in shape. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So then I decided I'm gonna do meal prep and I'm gonna get my body fat down. I'm like, all right, bitches, I'm gonna get my body fat under 10%. Okay. So meal prep was essential. I did that for a week before I just about started killing people. Like I hated doing meal prep. It was an hour and a half at night. I'd stand at the counter. By the time I was done, my back hurts and I'm like, I'm pissed. And I'm like, what the f am I doing? So I did what I do with everything at work. I pulled out my phone. I turned it on. I made my next 3 meals and I narrated my way through it. I went to Chat GPT. I followed my how to make a playbook. And within 15 minutes, I had a total playbook on how to do an entire week's worth of meals. And then I went to my assistant and said, put an ad on Facebook. I need somebody to come into my house 3 times a week and do meal prep. I'll pay them 20 bucks an hour. Had somebody come in. They come in twice. And then I started thinking, wait a minute, when you're done with the meals, could you mop the floor every, like just a couple. So now the thing that I get, these are my meals. It comes in, I get my Yeti cooler packed every day. I do all my meals. I know exactly how many calories I'm at. It's all plugged into MyFitnessPal on my phone. I can tell you that I've had about 1,600 calories so far today. I'm at 215 grams of protein so far today. Like, I don't do any of it because it sucks. But if I can control the input, and that costs me a few hours, 2 to 3 times a week for somebody at 20 bucks an hour, I mean, I'll take that trade all day long because I've gone from 20% body fat to 8.6 in the last year with that program. I've never been in better shape. And that's what sucks about it is the meal prep. So anything that's repeatable, anything that sucks the energy, that sucks that just frustrates, I would scrutinize, carefully scrutinize if you could get that delegated. You need the right mindset, you need the right systems, then you need to know how to delegate and inspect what you expect.
But I would also like before I delegate, I would want to know the process and the experience and how to do it, so I know how to price that too. Like
Yeah, for sure.
because people like to people want to get paid, but people don't want to work.
That's true. But at the same time, when there's clarity, so clarity is the magic elixir, right? A lot of people don't
Mm,
have clarity around their goals. So
mm,
if you don't even know where the hell, like I knew exactly where I was going. It's under
yeah,
10% body fat by the end of the year. And so I knew exactly what that meant. I know how many
yeah.
pounds I got to lose. I know how many body fat percentage points. I got muscle mass I got to gain. I had protein. I had the whole program. I was super clear. The only
You
thing that
know
sucked.
you have a path where to go,
Yeah,
and where's
absolutely.
your end. What like and that's like you said. That's the majority of the problem. Like people want to go somewhere, but there's steps, right? Like the meal prepping. You started your own. You took all the steps. You realize you need help. You use your own formula to help you, and
Mhm.
boom.
Yeah. And I'll push back on one thing, man. I don't know that I needed help, but what sucked was the meal prep part of it. And so I was like,
Hmm.
what am I doing? I'm not going to spend an hour and a half a day of my life. That is bullshit. I am not going to do that. And so I've realized that there are people around. There's college girls. There's people that would come in that just want a little work here and there that
Hmm.
need some flexibility with their schedule that will come in. Now, can I say to some college kid or some senior lady that wants to make a few extra bucks, hey, I want to get in shape. I want to do better. Do you think you want to come work for me? Like, what does that even mean? No, I gave her a 6-page document and said, can you follow this? Can you put these meals together? Here's the scale. You got to weigh everything that goes in. There's my fridge. It'll be full of the meats and everything like that, but you're going to need to do grocery shopping sometimes, and you're going to need to bring things into the house. And once in a while, I might ask you to clean the bathroom or mop the floor on your way out. And they're like, okay, sure. So there was clarity, there was a destination, there was a clear set of expectations, and then a price per hour. Like, are you willing to do that for 20 bucks an hour? Yeah. Okay, great deal. Let's go.
Wow. Straightforward, simple.
Yeah. And
You,
most
you know,
people, Dio, they say things like they
yeah.
want to do more. They want to get more healthy. They want to make more money. Those are bullshit. Those are not goals. Those are not clear. And that's one of the key things, one of the mindset side of my flywheel is you first have to start understanding you're never going to hit a target that you don't even know. If you can't define it, how the hell are you going to hit it? So we start after we get a few quick wins, so you got some breathing room with the founders
Mhm.
that I work with. Then we go deep into what is the reason you started this business? What do you want in the next 10 to 20 years? Let's start getting some, and we don't have to put together some 20-year crazy plan, but a paragraph on what you'd like to have. If I could give you a magic wand, what would you do with it? Then the picture starts to become clear. And now, just like I said earlier, you spend an hour this way, this way, this way, this way, and then you wonder why you're back where you started. Well, when you know where you're headed, you spend an hour this way, then you back it up with an hour behind it and an hour behind it. After 4 to 8 hours, you've made progress. You're not back where you started. And that feels good. And that builds momentum. And when I eat 2,000 calories or 1,600 calories or 2,400 calories, depending on what the goal is for that cycle, I see that momentum and that progress right away. Now, it took me months. It's like a hockey stick, right? It takes months to develop that first part, but then off I go because I have systems and standards to hold that behavior.
Mm.
It's cool.
I hear
It's
that.
super cool.
I hear that. So before we go, where can the people find you to get your help and your guidance?
Yeah, I'm all over now. Not used to be the case, but now I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and everything. I think everything is kind of the same. So all the major social platforms and all the same handle at It's Justin Lund. And like I said, any of those playbooks, just come over there and mention playbook Dio, and just so I know that there's somebody here listening for you, and you can, like, if you need an EA or if you're not even sure what to do, just message me. I get back to people in that. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a day or two, but always I will get back to you 100% of the time. And like I said, all I ask is for a follow. Anything I've got, you can have.
Oh, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you go follow him. Make sure you ask for the play deal. Um, go seek his service. Go get some information. Go get some guidance. Right, that's what we all need from time to time. Some guidance. Hear his story. And continues to support us here on DIOTALK. Like and subscribe to YouTube channel. Now you can buy me a coffee if you like the content and it's inspiring. Have a good night, guys. I'm out. Justin, it's been an honor.